There's a question most people never stop to ask, not because the answer is hidden, but because the question itself is uncomfortable. The question is this: how much of your suffering right now, today, is caused by reality? And how much is caused by the story you are telling yourself about reality? Sit with that for a moment. Because the ancient Stoics believed that almost everything we call suffering, the anxiety, the frustration, the quiet dread that follows us through the day, almost all of it lives not in the world, but in the mind. And if that's true, then most important work you will ever do is not out there. It's in here. This is the story of Stoicism, one of the oldest, most quietly revolutionary philosophies ever conceived. And today, it may be more relevant than at any other point in human history. What is Stoicism? When most people hear the word Stoic, they picture someone cold, emotionless, the person at the table who never laughs, never cries, never lets anything land. That's not Stoicism. It's just suppression wearing a philosophical costume. Real Stoicism is something far more nuanced and far more human. Stoicism is a practice of perception. It's the deliberate training of how you see, interpret, and respond to the world around you. It doesn't ask you to feel less. It asks you to understand your feelings well enough that they stop controlling you. Think of it this way. Two people receive the same piece of bad news. A project fails. A relationship ends. A plan collapses. One person is swallowed whole by it, spiraling, catastrophizing, unable to function for days. The other person feels the weight of it, acknowledges it fully, and then, deliberately, consciously, returns to what they can actually do next. Same event, completely different experience. That gap between stimulus and response, that is the entire territory of Stoic philosophy. At its foundation, Stoicism rests on one central idea. The only thing that truly within your power are your own thoughts, your own judgments, and your own actions. Everything else, or other people's behavior, your reputation, the weather, the outcome of your efforts, that belongs to the world. And the world doesn't take requests. Simple to understand, extraordinarily difficult to live. But the people who lived it, they've left behind some of the most profound words in human history. The year is roughly 300 BCE. Place: Athens, Greece. A merchant ship from Cyprus is wrecked in a storm. Its cargo, a large shipment of purple dye worth a fortune, sinks to the bottom of the sea. The merchant survives, but he loses nearly everything. His name is Zeno of Citium. Stranded in Athens with little money and no clear direction, Zeno wanders into a bookshop. He picks up a text about Socrates and reads it standing there in the aisle. Something shifts in him. He asks the bookseller where he might find men like Socrates. The bookseller points out a man walking past. That man is Crates of Thebes, a philosopher. Zeno follows him, and from that shipwreck, from that loss, from that chance encounter in a bookshop, one of history's great philosophical traditions is born. Zeno would go on to teach in the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, a public colonnade in Athens. His students gathered there to learn, and in time, his philosophy took the name of the place where it was taught, the Stoa, Stoicism. But the philosophy didn't reach its full depth in Athens. It traveled through centuries and cultures, finding its greatest voices in the Roman world. Seneca was a playwright, a statesman, and an advisor to Emperor Nero. He was brilliant, practical, and deeply conflicted, a man who wrote eloquently about living simply while accumulating one of Rome's greatest fortunes. He knew his contradictions. He wrote about them openly. I have not yet achieved the wisdom I'm describing, he once admitted in spirit, if not in those exact words. But I am moving toward it. That honesty is part of why Seneca endures. He was not a saint offering commandments from above. He was a man, flawed, politically entangled, morally complicated, trying to figure out how to live well, just like us. Epictetus was born into slavery. Let that land for a moment. He had no name of his own, no freedom, no rights. His owner reportedly once twisted his leg to demonstrate that Epictetus had no power over his own body. According to the story, Epictetus calmly warned him, "You are going to break it." When the leg broke, Epictetus simply said, "Did I not tell you?" No rage, no despair, just clarity. He was eventually freed. He opened a school, and the philosophy he taught, distilled from a life of absolute powerlessness, became one of the most powerful philosophies of self-determination ever recorded. Epictetus understood, perhaps better than anyone, that freedom doesn't begin when the chains come off. It begins the moment you realize the chains were never inside your mind. And then there is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, the most powerful man in the known world. He also kept a private journal, not for publication, not for legacy, just for himself. A daily practice of reflection, self-examination, and recommitment to living by his values. We call that journal the Meditations, and it reads not like the proclamations of an emperor, but like the quiet notes of a man fighting every single day against his own ego, his own impatience, his own temptation to become exactly what power tends to make people. He wrote things like, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. A man who controlled an empire, reminding himself each morning that control is an illusion, and that the only thing worth fighting for is his own character. Stoicism didn't come from comfort. It came from shipwrecks and slavery and the loneliness of absolute power. And that matters. So what does Stoicism actually teach? At its core, three interlocking ideas. The first, the dichotomy of control. Stoics divided the entire universe into two categories: things within your control and things outside of it. Within your control, your thoughts, your intentions, your choices, your effort, your response. Outside your control, literally everything else. The weather, other people's opinions, whether your flight is delayed, whether the economy dips, whether someone you love decides to walk away. Here is the radical implication of this. Most of what we spend our emotional energy on is in the second category. We agonize over what people think of us. We catastrophize about outcomes we cannot predict. We rehearse arguments with people who aren't in the room. We carry grief about things that haven't happened yet. The Stoic practice, the actual daily discipline, is to continually ask, is this in my control or not? And then to redirect your energy accordingly. It sounds almost too simple until you try it for a week. The second principle. Perception shapes reality. Stoics believed it is not events that disturb us. It is our judgments about events. This isn't the same as toxic positivity. It's not everything happens for a reason, or just look at the bright side. Something more rigorous than that. It's the recognition that every situation you encounter is, at first, neutral. It has no inherent meaning. Meaning is something you assign. And that assignment, that interpretation, is where your power lives. Marcus Aurelius called this practice taking the impression apart. When something happens, he would train himself not to accept the first interpretation, the one that came with the most heat and emotion, but to look at the bare facts of the situation and ask, what is actually true here? What am I adding? If a colleague doesn't respond to your message, you can add, they're ignoring me. They don't respect me. Something is wrong. Or you can observe, they haven't responded yet. Full stop. One version creates suffering. The other keeps you free. The third principle. Virtue is the only true good. This is perhaps the most challenging Stoic idea for the modern mind. Stoics believed that external things, wealth, status, comfort, even health, are what they called preferred indifference. Yes, you'd prefer to have them, but they are not in themselves good, because they can be taken from you, and your happiness cannot be permitted to live inside things that can be taken from you. What cannot be taken is your character, your integrity, your courage, your commitment to treating others well, even when it costs you. Stoics called these virtues wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline, the only genuine goods. Everything else is secondary. This doesn't mean you stop caring about success or comfort. It means you stop needing them in order to be okay. Here's the honest truth. The world we are navigating today would have fascinated the Stoics and terrified them. Never in human history have we had such immediate, constant access to information and to other people's opinions, performances, and pain. We scroll through 1,000 lives before we've had our own morning coffee. We are exposed daily to a volume of noise that no human nervous system was built to process. And underneath it all, something very quiet is being asked of us. The same thing the Stoics were asking 2,000 years ago. Who is in charge here? You or the flood? Take social media. The architecture of every major platform is designed with one goal: to provoke a reaction, outrage, envy, fear, tribal loyalty. Because reactions drive engagement, and engagement drives revenue. Stoic response is not to delete every account and move to a cabin in the woods. It's to notice what's happening, to watch, with something approaching detachment, how your mood shifts as you scroll. To ask yourself, am I choosing this feeling, or is it being manufactured for me? That's not paranoia. That's the dichotomy of control, applied in real time. Or take failure, which most of us, if we are being honest, are more afraid of than almost anything else. We build entire identities around avoiding failure. We don't start the business. We don't write the book. We don't say what we actually feel. Because if we try and it doesn't work, then what does that say about us? Epictetus would have a very direct answer. Nothing. It says nothing about you. Your effort is yours. The outcome belongs to the world. If you did the thing with full commitment and honest intention, you have not failed. You have simply encountered a result. The fear of failure, really, is the fear that our worth is tied to our outcomes. Stoicism severs that connection. Your worth is in your character, your process, your choices, not in whether the market responded the way you hoped. And anxiety, quiet epidemic of our era. There's a practice Seneca wrote about, a kind of voluntary imagining of the worst case. He called it premeditatio malorum, premeditation of adversity. Before something important, instead of visualizing success, you deliberately imagine everything that could go wrong, clearly, specifically. You sit inside it for a moment, and then you ask, could I survive this? Could I find a way forward even from here? Almost always, the answer is yes. What this practice does is neutralize the unknown. Anxiety thrives in the vague, dark space of what if. Stoic premeditation walks into that space, turns on the lights, looks around and says, okay, I see you. I'm ready. Philosophy without practice is just decoration. The Stoics knew this. Every major Stoic thinker emphasized daily exercises, concrete, repeatable habits that kept philosophy alive in the body, not just in the mind. Here are 5 that you can begin today. Before your phone, before the news, before the flood of the day begins, take 5 minutes, just 5, and ask yourself 3 questions. What might challenge me today? What principle do I want to carry with me? What is within my control and what is not? You are not planning. You are not setting goals. You are orienting. You are choosing who you want to be before the world gets a chance to choose for you. Marcus Aurelius did something like this every morning. Meditations are, in part, a record of it. At the end of the day, another 5 minutes. Seneca described reviewing the day 3 times. Where did I fall short? Where did I hold steady? Where can I do better tomorrow? No self-flagellation, no performance, just honest examination. The way a craftsman looks at the day's work and sees clearly what still needs refinement. This practice, done consistently, builds an almost uncommon self-awareness. You start to see your patterns, the triggers that pull you off course, the moments where your best self shows up and why. Negative visualization. We touched on this, but it deserves its own moment. Once a week, spend a few quiet moments imagining the loss of something you value, a relationship, your health, your work, not to induce sadness, but to feel briefly and vividly how much it matters. The Stoics believed that we stop truly seeing the things we love because familiarity makes them invisible. This practice makes them visible again. It also, quietly over time, builds a kind of gratitude that doesn't depend on things going well, because you've already tasted what it would be like without them. The pause. This one has no fixed time. It happens in the middle of things. The moment before you send the sharp reply. The moment before you say yes to something you want to say no to. The moment when someone does something that makes your blood rise. Just pause. Not forever, not to suppress, just long enough to let the first wave of reaction pass and to ask quietly, what would I choose to do here if I were the person I want to be. Epictetus taught that this gap between stimulus and response is the seat of all human freedom. The pause is how you claim it. Do one hard thing each day. Stoics believed that comfort, left unchecked, becomes a kind of trap. When we only do what's easy, we start to believe that we can only handle what's easy. So each day, one thing that asks something of you: a cold shower, an honest conversation you've been postponing, an hour of focused work instead of distracted scrolling, a run when you'd rather sit. Not because suffering is noble, but because choosing discomfort deliberately, voluntarily, is proof to yourself that you are not ruled by your comfort, that your choices are driven by values, not conditions. Over time, this builds something the Stoics called ascesis, a kind of trained resilience. Not toughness, not numbness, but the quiet confidence of someone who knows they can handle more than they used to think. We live in an age of infinite distraction and very little stillness. We are more connected than any humans who have ever lived, and by many measures, more anxious, more isolated, more uncertain about who we are and what we are doing here. There are 1,000 philosophies available to you, 8,000 frameworks, systems, and gurus offering a path through. What makes Stoicism different, what has kept it alive for 23 centuries, is not that it offers comfort. It offers something better. It offers clarity. The clarity to see what is real and what is illusion. The clarity to know what is yours to carry and what is not. The clarity to look at your own mind clearly, without flinching, and choose who you want to be inside of it. Zeno lost his ship and found philosophy. Epictetus lost his freedom and found something more durable than freedom. Marcus Aurelius had everything in the world could offer and spent his life trying to make sure it didn't hollow him out. None of them were seeking perfection. None of them claimed to have arrived. The Stoic life is not a destination. It's a direction, a daily recommitment to the same question. Am I living from my values or from my fears? That question doesn't get easier, but the practice of asking it consistently, honestly, without judgment, changes something in you, slowly, quietly. The way water changes stone. If you take one thing from this, not a technique, not a quote, not a historical name to look up later. If you take one thing, let it be this: you are not your circumstances. You are your responses to them. The traffic, diagnosis, the disappointment, the slow accumulation of small injustices that life hands to everyone. None of that has the final word. You do. Not because life is fair, it isn't. Not because hard things aren't hard, they are. But because somewhere inside the oldest philosophical tradition in the Western world, in the words of shipwrecked merchant, a freed slave, and a lonely emperor writing to himself by candlelight, there is a truth that has never stopped being true. The mind is its own place. And in that place, you are always free to choose. The Stoics didn't promise a life without difficulty. They promised something more honest, that you could meet difficulty with dignity, that you could be moved without being swept away, that you could feel everything, grief, joy, uncertainty, love, and still remain underneath it all, composed, not cold, not distant, composed. Start small. Try the morning reflection tomorrow. Ask the question before you send the next sharp message. Notice, once this week, what you are actually in control of and what you are not. Philosophy is not a library, it's a life, and yours is still being written. And if you want to go deeper, the best place to start is Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. It's not long, it's not dense, and almost every page feels like it was written for exactly the moment you're in. If this resonated, if this hit, share it. If you really enjoyed it, subscribe, follow me everywhere. We're building something real here. Stay grounded, stay sharp, stay unshakable.